Yeah, Marcella, as you mentioned, the Menendez brothers are here at Donovan State Prison. They're serving a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Now, today, family members gathered to say that they want them released, citing new evidence and the fact that the abuse they endured was never taken into account.
Over time, it became clear that there were two other victims there on that day, my cousins Lyle and Eric.
During Wednesday's long-awaited news conference, the family of Lyle and Erik Menendez spoke out in their defense, saying after more than 30 years, it's time for their release.
Lyle and Eric have already paid a heavy price, discarded by a system that failed to recognize their pain.
Relatives on both sides, including Kitty Menendez's sister, said they support Lyle and Erik, knowing what the brothers endured. They explained back then little was known about sexual abuse, and it wasn't considered during trial, adding if a trial were held today, the sentence would be much different.
The whole world was not ready to believe boys could be raped, or that young men could be victims of sexual violence. Today we know better. We know that abuse has long-lasting effects, and victims of trauma sometimes act in ways that are very difficult to understand.
In 1989, Lyle and Erik shot their father and mother inside their Beverly Hills home. The brothers said they feared their parents were going to kill them to prevent stories emerging about the abuse. The case has had renewed interest thanks to a recent Netflix show, as well as newly surfaced evidence. That includes a letter Erik Menendez reportedly wrote to his cousin 8 months before the murders, describing the abuse he was suffering at the hands of his father. A former member of the boy band Menudo said he too was raped by Jose Menendez, who worked in the music industry. Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon has confirmed his office is looking at that new evidence and will determine if the brothers will get a new trial or be resentenced.
What needs to happen is the consideration of second chances, the consideration of the abuse, and changing what we know in our society to be wrong.
Also today, the family announced they have started an online petition calling for the brothers to be released. You can find that at justiceforlyleanderic.org. A hearing is scheduled to discuss the case on November 29th. Marcella?
Shannon, has the DA responded to the family's news conference today?
No, they did not make any comments today, but they did in days prior. We did hear from the DA, and he said, look, there's no question that the brothers murdered their mother and father, but that his office has a moral obligation to look at this case again based on that new evidence. Now, he will make a recommendation on whether or not to resentence them or call for a new trial, but ultimately, the final decision will be made by a judge.
All right.